She said 5 words to me in a cold parking lot at 9 o'clock at night. 5 words I never asked for. 5 words I wasn't ready for. 5 words that cracked open a door I'd spent years sealing shut. I'm going to tell you what those words were, but not yet. Because to understand what they meant, you need to understand who I was before she said them, and more importantly, who I was pretending to be. Let me start from the beginning. My name is 8. I'm 29 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment on the north side of Columbus, Ohio. The kind of place where the rent is reasonable and the heat works most of the time. Nothing special. A small kitchen. A couch that came with the lease. In a single window that looks out over a parking lot full of sedans and delivery vans. I drive a gray Toyota Camry that's 11 years old. It still runs like it knows better than to quit on me. Every morning I wake up at 6:45, make black coffee in a machine that's older than some of my coworkers. Leave for work by 7:20. The commute is 23 minutes if traffic behaves. 28 if it doesn't. I like the predictability of it all. Now, if this is your first time here, I need to ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible? Ever wondered what would happen if someone actually saw you? Really saw you? Then this channel was made for you. Hit subscribe right now. Because what happens next in this story is going to stay with you for a long time. I work as a network technician at a mid-sized freight company just off the interstate. The building is one of those low, wide structures with beige siding and too many fluorescent lights. My desk is tucked in the far corner of the second floor, right next to a rack of servers that hums constantly like a low, steady heartbeat. I don't mind the noise. It drowns out everything else. Most days, I spend running cable through ceiling tiles, troubleshooting Wi-Fi drops for the accounting team, or explaining patiently why you can't plug a personal Keurig into the same circuit that's already powering 3 monitors. I get it done. I document it. I move on. No one really notices me. And I've spent years making sure of that. Being invisible has its advantages. People don't expect much from you. They don't ask you to join happy hours or weekend softball games. They don't lean on you when things go wrong. You just exist in the background, reliable, and quiet like the hum of the servers. I used to think that was a strength. Now I'm not so sure. It was a Tuesday in October when the first ripple appeared. I didn't see her arrive. I only heard about it. Dex from logistics leaned against my server rack around 10:30. The way he always does when he has gossip he can't keep to himself. He crossed his arms, lowered his voice like he was sharing classified information. New girl in sales, Sloane, started today. Sharp as hell. Apparently she corrected Todd in the onboarding meeting. Politely, but still. I nodded once, eyes still on my screen. Good for her. Dex waited for more. When I didn't give it, he shrugged and wandered off. I didn't think about it again that morning. New people come and go. They rarely change anything. But here's the thing about ripples. You don't notice the water rising until your shoes are already wet. 2 days later, Thursday, I was walking back from the supply closet with a spool of Cat 6 cable. That's when I heard the coffee machine in the break area beeping like it was having a full meltdown. I almost kept walking. But the sound was insistent, the kind that makes your shoulders tense. Even when it's not your problem, I stepped into the little alcove. She was standing there, arms crossed, staring at the machine like it had personally offended her. Dark hair, shoulder length, tucked behind one ear. Charcoal blazer over a cream blouse, sleeves rolled to her elbows, no ring. Glasses with thick frames that made her eyes look even more focused. She jabbed at the touchscreen again. The machine beeped louder. Without thinking, I walked over, reached past her, pushed the water reservoir back into place until it clicked. The beeping stopped. The machine gurgled and started brewing. She turned. Not startled, just curious. Like she'd been waiting for someone to solve the puzzle, and I happened to be the first. Thanks, she said. Her voice was low, calm, the kind that doesn't rush. I nodded. It sticks sometimes. You have to shove it in harder than you'd think. She studied me for a second. Really studied me. Not the polite glance most people give. You work on this floor? End of the hall. Network side. I blinked. Sloane? Sales. Just started. Nate. She gave a small smile, the kind that reaches the eyes but doesn't overstay its welcome. Nice to meet you, Nate. She poured her coffee black, no sugar, and walked away. The whole exchange lasted maybe 40 seconds. I stood there another 10, staring at the machine like it owed me an explanation for why my pulse was just a little faster than it should be. That small smile. The way she said my name, like she'd already decided to remember it. I told myself it was nothing. Just a moment. I'd had moments before. They always passed. But 40 seconds. That's all it took. And I wouldn't understand why until much later. Over the next few weeks, the moments kept coming. We passed each other in the stairwell. She held the door, even though I was still halfway down the hall. I said thanks. She said no problem. Simple. I saw her at the printer when it jammed again. She stepped aside so I could fix it. While I pulled out the crumpled paper, she asked, "You ever get tired of being the one who knows how everything works?" I shrugged. Beats being the one who doesn't. She laughed. Quiet, dry, real. Fair. Another time, in the third-floor break room, she was eating lunch alone by the window. I walked in for water. She looked up, nodded, like we'd already agreed to share the space. I sat at the table next to hers. We didn't talk much at first. Just the sound of forks on plates and the low hum of the fridge. Then she asked, "You always sit in the back during meetings?" I paused. "Yeah. Better view of the screen," she smiled. "Or less chance of being called on." I didn't deny it. Week by week, the conversations stretched a little longer. She had this way of asking questions that didn't feel like interrogations. She listened, really listened, without filling the silence with her own stories. I found myself answering more than I usually did. Not because I wanted to impress her, just because it felt safe. I noticed small things. The way she tapped her pen against her notebook when she was thinking. The way she always held the elevator door, even if the person was still 20 feet away. The way her eyes stayed on yours when you spoke. Like nothing else in the room mattered. I told myself it was just coworker politeness. Nothing more, but deep down, I knew something had shifted. The office didn't feel quite so quiet anymore. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure I wanted it to. She had no ring on her finger. She drank her coffee black. And she always looked at me 1 second longer than she needed to. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I was about to find out on a Thursday night in a cold parking lot. With no one else around, that Thursday felt heavier than the others. The week had dragged on like wet concrete. 3 straight days of wrestling with 2 servers on the 4th floor. Random packet loss. Intermittent crashes. Logs that made no sense until they suddenly did at 3 a.m. Not my eyes burned. My shoulders ached from crawling under desks to trace cables. By the time I finally closed the last ticket at 8:47 p.m., the office was a ghost town. The overhead lights had dimmed to night mode. Long shadows down the hallways. Only the janitorial crew was left, their vacuums humming faintly in the distance. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the side exit. The cold hit me the second I pushed the door open. A sharp, damp October bite that smelled like wet asphalt and fallen leaves. The parking lot stretched under sodium lamps. Yellow and flat. Puddles reflecting the glow like broken mirrors after the afternoon rain. My Camry was parked near the back fence. Alone in its row, I was halfway across the lot when I saw her. Sloane stood next to a dark green Jeep Cherokee. Hood propped open. One hand holding her phone. The other gripping a small flashlight pointed into the engine bay. Her shoulders were hunched against the chill. Blazer buttoned all the way up, scarf loose around her neck. Even from 30 feet away, I could see the frustration in her posture. I slowed. I could have kept walking. My car was only a dozen spaces away. But something, maybe the same quiet impulse that made me fix the coffee machine, pulled me over. "Need a hand?" She looked up, startled for half a second, then relieved. The flashlight beam swung across my face before she lowered it. "God, yes, please." I set my bag on the wet pavement and took the light. The alternator belt was visible right away. Frayed, cracked, hanging on by threads. I traced it with my fingers, feeling the slack. Alternator belt, I said. It's shot. I can jury rig it enough to get you home, but you'll need a garage tomorrow. She exhaled through her nose. Of course it is. Today of all days. I didn't ask what she meant. I just went to work. I kept a small toolkit in my trunk. Old habit from years of driving cars that like to break down on schedule. Gloves, multi-tool, zip ties. Sloane stepped back to give me space, but didn't wander far. She stood close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something clean and faint like citrus and linen. Mixed with the rain and motor oil, the lot was quiet. No horns, no voices. Just the low rustle of wind through the chain link and the metallic clink of my tools. She didn't fill the silence with chatter. She didn't ask unnecessary questions. She just watched, arms folded, breath fogging in the cold air. I worked quickly, loosened the tensioner, removed what was left of the old belt, looped a temporary length of reinforced cord I kept for emergencies. Not pretty, but it would hold for 20 miles. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood up. Try it. She slid into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine caught. Steady and strong. No squealing, no warning lights. Instead of driving away, she stepped out. Closed the door softly, leaned back against it. She looked up at the sky. Cloudy, no stars. Just the dull orange glow of the city reflected back. Thank you, she said quietly. I nodded. No problem. She didn't move. Neither did I. And then after a long silence, she whispered something. Voice so soft I almost missed it. I wish you were mine. My hands froze halfway to zipping my bag. The cold air rushed into my lungs, sharper than before. I straightened slowly, turned to face her. She wasn't looking at me. Her gaze was fixed somewhere off to the side. On the puddle at her feet, on the fence line, her jaw was tight. Like she was already regretting the words, already building the wall to take them back. I swallowed. What did you say? She met my eyes. Just for 2 seconds, long enough for me to see everything she wasn't saying. It's embarrassment, fear, something raw and unguarded that she clearly hadn't planned to let out. Then she looked away. Nothing, she said quickly. We both knew it was a lie. I could have let it go. Said goodnight. Grabbed my bag. Walked to my car. But my feet wouldn't move. Instead, I leaned against the Jeep next to her. Close enough that our shoulders almost touched, but didn't. I stared out at the same empty lot. The silence stretched. Not uncomfortable. Just present. You always seem so steady, she finally said. Like nothing rattles you. I gave a small laugh, more breath than sound. Looks can be deceiving. She turned her head slightly. Do they? Sometimes. She exhaled. I've been here 6 weeks. Everyone talks at me. Reports, deadlines, metrics. No one talks to me. Not really, she paused. Except you. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said nothing. My family, they've always had a plan. Private school, good college, good firm, good match. Garrett fits the plan. Everyone says so. She laughed once, short and dry. It doesn't work. I glanced at her. You don't have to explain, I know. She looked at me then. Really looked. But I want to. With you, I want to. My chest tightened. Not in a bad way. Just full. We stayed like that for almost an hour. She told me about her grandfather's woodworking shop in upstate New York, how he used to let her sand. Cherry boards until her fingers were raw, I told her. About the summer, I rebuilt the carburetor on my dad's old Chevy. How he never once told me I was doing it. Wrong. We laughed about the coffee machine. We talked about how strange it felt to be almost 30 and still figuring out who you're allowed to be. When she said she should go, the cold had settled deeper into my bones. She opened the driver's door, paused. Cue. For the car. For listening, I nodded. Drive safe. She gave me one last look. Soft, unguarded, then slid inside. Taillights glowed red, then faded as she pulled out of the lot. I stood there until the sound of her tires disappeared. Then I walked to my car and drove home. The whole way. Those 5 words echoed. I wish you were mine. I didn't sleep much that night. And when morning came, everything I'd built to protect myself started to fall apart. I woke before the alarm, staring at the ceiling fan turning slow circles above me. The words were still there, looping quietly. Like background noise, I couldn't mute. I wish you were mine. I told myself it was exhaustion talking. Hers, mine, both. People say things in parking lots at night that they don't mean in daylight. I believed that for about 30 seconds. Then I got up, made coffee, and drove to work like nothing had changed. But something had. I arrived early, parked in my usual spot near the back fence, walked inside. The office felt different before I even reached my desk. Eyes followed me down the hallway. Not obvious stares, just quick glances that dart away when you look back. Dex walked past my cube twice in the first hour, slowing each time like he was waiting for me to say something. I didn't. By 9:30, the whispers had volume. Fragments from the break room. Saw them in the lot last night. Standing there forever. And her car, right? Hood up and everything. None of it was loud enough to confront. Just loud enough to spread by lunch. The story had grown legs. Someone saw us talking closely. Someone else added for a long time. By the time it reached accounting, it had become working late together on something personal. Funny how rumors work. You spend years being invisible, and the one time someone sees you, they turn it into a story you didn't write. At 11 o'clock, my phone buzzed. Internal calendar invite. No subject line, just meeting conference room B1115. From Mr. Caldwell's assistant, the director of operations. My stomach dropped. I walked in at 11:14. Mr. Caldwell was already there. Legal pad, cold coffee, calm eyes. Late 50s, always precise. He didn't smile when I sat down. He didn't frown. Nate, he started. I'm going to keep this short. There's been talk about you and Sloane. People saw you in the parking lot. Late. For a while. Helped her with her car. Alternator belt. I patched it so she could get home. He studied me. That's what I figured. But perception matters here. I'm not accusing you of anything. Just asking you to be mindful of professional boundaries. I understand. Good. He tapped his pen once. Keep doing good work. That's what people notice most. 9 minutes. I walked out feeling like I'd been pressed between two sheets of glass. Still whole, but aware of the pressure. Sloane was waiting at the end of the hallway. Arms crossed tight. What happened? Reminder about boundaries. Nothing formal. Her shoulders dropped. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I put you in a position. I shook my head. You didn't put me anywhere. I stayed because I wanted to. She looked at me. The way she had that first time by the coffee machine. I meant it, Nate. Every word. But I should have kept it to myself. I didn't know how to answer. So I didn't. Someone called her name from down the hall. Todd, probably. Another sales report. She straightened, smoothed her blazer. See you around. I watched her walk away. And even as she disappeared around the corner, a question stayed behind. One she hadn't answered. Who was Garrett? And why didn't she wear his ring? For the next week, we kept our distance. Polite nods in the stairwell. A quick morning at the coffee station. No lingering, no questions, no parking lot conversations. But the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy. Every time I saw her, carrying files, talking on her phone, laughing at something in the break room, I felt the pull. Not dramatic, just steady, like gravity. You only notice it when you're trying to fight it. 8 days after that Thursday night, my internal chat pinged. Sloane, room 312, break area now. I stared at the message for 10 seconds. Then I closed my laptop and walked to the 3rd floor. The break room was empty except for her. She sat at the small table by the window, glasses pushed up on her head, an untouched cup of tea in front of her. She looked tired. Not the kind from lack of sleep, the deeper kind. The kind that settles in your bones. Close the door. Did she met my eyes? There's something I should have told you before anything went further. My pulse picked up. I sat across from her. She took a slow breath. I'm engaged. The words landed flat, like stones dropped into still water. Engaged? She nodded once. 8 months. His name is Garrett. Our families have known each other forever. It was arranged. Not forced, just expected. I thought the feeling would come. She paused. It hasn't. I looked at her hands. No ring. I don't wear it at work, she said. It feels dishonest. Why tell me now? Because what I said in the parking lot was true, and I couldn't let you carry that without knowing the whole story. She paused. I didn't want to lie to you, not even by omission. The room felt smaller. Outside, a delivery truck beeped in steady rhythm. Does he know? I asked. About how you feel. He knows I'm not in love with him. He just thinks time will fix it. I nodded. I'm sorry, Nate. I never meant to drag you into this. You didn't drag me. I walked in on my own. I stood up. Thanks for telling me. She didn't stop me when I walked out. I went back to my desk. Stared at my screen for 20 minutes without moving the mouse. The servers hummed beside me. The sound didn't feel comforting anymore. It just felt like noise. I wish you were mine. The words carried more weight now. And a question I wasn't sure I was ready to answer now. I want to pause here for a second. If this story is hitting you somewhere real, I need you to do something. If you've ever felt invisible and then suddenly seen by someone you never expected, this next part is for you. Drop a single word in the comments. Just one word. Tell me. Mine. That's it. I'll know exactly what you mean. The 2 weeks after that felt like walking on a frozen pond. Thin ice cracking under every step, but I kept moving anyway. I forced myself back into routine. Head down, tickets closed, cables traced. Made sure my face never gave anything away. Sloane and I crossed paths a few times. Quick hellos. A shared glance. But we never lingered. It was safer that way. I told myself the distance was necessary. She was engaged. I was nobody special. The line had been drawn, but logic doesn't quiet the part of you that remembers her voice. It doesn't erase the way her eyes looked when she told the truth, so I buried it. The way I'd buried everything else for years. Then came the calendar invite. Thursday afternoon. Conference room A, 3 p.m. mandatory. From Mrs. Ashford's assistant. No subject, no agenda. Mrs. Ashford was the regional director. The one person in the building who could make the entire floor go quiet with a single raised eyebrow. She didn't call meetings for small things, and she never invited 2 people into a room unless she already knew the answer to every question she was about to ask. I walked in at 2:58. Sloane was already there, hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the polished wood in front of her. Mrs. Ashford sat at the head, posture straight, a single legal pad open. No laptop, no phone. Sit, Nate. I took the chair across from Sloane. The door clicked shut. I'll be direct, Mrs. Ashford said. I respect both of you, and I don't believe in games. There's been talk about a night in the parking lot, about conversations that may have crossed lines. I've spoken to HR. No formal complaint. No violation, she paused. But I received a phone call yesterday from Garrett Whitfield's father. He's a board member at Kramer Logistics, which happens to be one of our largest freight partners. He wanted to know why his son's fiancée was seen alone with a staff technician at 9 o'clock at night. The room went cold. Sloane closed her eyes. I could see her knuckles go white against the edge of the table, Mrs. Ashford continued. Her voice stayed calm, but there was something underneath it, something careful. I told him I'd look into it. That's why we're here. She turned to Sloane. I've known your family for over 20 years. I watched you grow up. And I need you to understand what I'm about to say. I say because I care about you, not because I'm choosing sides. Sloane opened her eyes. I know. This isn't just a personal matter anymore, Sloane. It's become a business one. And whether that's fair or not, it's real. Sloane exhaled. When she spoke, her voice was thin, like it was stretched over something sharp. I know what it looks like. And I know what the right answer is supposed to be. Smile, wear the ring, keep the peace. She paused. But I've been doing that for 8 months. And it's not working. It's not honest. Mrs. Ashford turned to me. I've watched you here for years. You're reliable, quiet. You get the job done. That's valuable. She paused. But I've also watched you disappear. There's a difference between being cautious and being closed off. Don't confuse the two. I didn't respond. My throat felt tight. Mrs. Ashford closed her pad. I'm not going to tell either of you what to do. But I'll say this. Whatever happens next, handle it with integrity. And understand that there are people outside this room who will not be as patient as I am. Sloane stood first. May I be excused? Mrs. Ashford nodded. Sloane walked out without a word. I stayed a moment longer. You're a good man, Nate, Mrs. Ashford said quietly. Don't let fear decide who you get to be. I left the room. And for the first time, the hum of the servers wasn't loud enough to drown anything out. Sloane's message came 20 minutes later. We need to talk. I typed one word. I know. I drove home in silence. No radio, no podcast. Just tires on wet pavement. The days that followed were the hardest kind of quiet. Not peace. Just waiting for something to break, and then Sunday night, 10 p.m., I was on the couch with a half-finished bowl of ramen when the knock came. Soft, hesitant, but definite. I opened the door. Sloane stood in the hallway light, eyes red-rimmed, cheeks streaked. She hadn't bothered to hide it. Glasses fogged from the cold. Hair damp, like she'd walked here in the mist without an umbrella. She looked smaller than she ever had at work. Smaller, but not broken. I ended it, she said. The words hung between us. I stepped aside. Come in. She walked past me, paused in the middle of the living room. The networking books on the coffee table, the coiled cables along the baseboard, the single-potted plant on the windowsill somehow still alive despite my neglect. She turned to face me. I called Garrett. Then I called my parents. It wasn't pretty. They're angry. They think I'm throwing away everything they've built for me. She took a breath. But I couldn't keep pretending. I closed the door softly. You didn't have to come here. I know. But I wanted to. Her voice was shaky. I needed you to hear it from me, not through rumors, not through someone else. She paused. I didn't do this because of you, Nate. Not entirely. I did it because I've been unhappy for so long, I forgot what happy felt like. You just reminded me it was possible. I didn't move closer, hands in my pockets, letting her words settle. What do you need right now? She looked surprised by the question. Then her face softened. I just need someone to sit with me. No fixing, no plans. Just sit. I can do that. She sat on the couch. Not touching, not speaking. I turned on the lamp so the light was soft. She pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. The apartment was quiet. Just the fridge humming in the kitchen and the faint sound of rain starting up again outside the window. After a while, quiet stories. About her childhood, summers at her grandfather's cabin in the Adirondacks. How the porch smelled like pine and sawdust. How he used to let her sand cherry boards until her fingers were raw. She said he never once told her to be careful. He just trusted her to figure it out. She told me about the day she got the acceptance letter to business school. How her mother cried and said, now everything falls into place. She told me about the first time she met Garrett. A dinner at his parents' house. White tablecloths. 4 forks. Everyone smiling. She said she smiled too, but she felt like she was watching herself from across the room. I listened. I told her about rebuilding engines with my dad. Summer of 2014. Garage door open, radio on low, grease on everything. How he never once said I was doing it wrong. Even when I cross-threaded a spark plug and stripped the hole. He just handed me the tap and die set and said, try again. I told her that was the last summer before he got sick, and that the Chevy still sits in my uncle's barn in Zanesville. I haven't started it since. She didn't say she was sorry. She just put her hand on the cushion between us, palm up, open. I didn't take it, not yet. But I didn't move away either. We talked about how strange it felt to be. It's almost 30, and still figuring out who you're allowed to be. about the difference between the life people plan for you and the one you actually want, about how silence can feel like a wall or a door, depending on who you're sharing it with. We talked until the clock passed midnight. When she stood to leave, she paused at the door. What I said that night in the parking lot, she started. I finished for her. I wish you were mine. She blinked. You never said it back. I'm saying it now. She looked at me for a long moment, searching, hopeful, afraid. Then she stepped closer. And in the dim hallway light of a one-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio, the distance between two invisible people finally closed. She leaned her forehead against mine and whispered, "Then stop wishing. I'd like to tell you everything got easy after that. That the rumors stopped. That her family came around. That the world suddenly made sense. But real life doesn't work that way. And that's okay. What I can tell you is this. I learned that being invisible isn't the same as being safe. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone see you, even when every instinct tells you to stay in the shadows, quiet. Behind the hum of the servers, she didn't save me. I didn't save her. We just stopped pretending at the same time, in the same place, and that was enough. Some mornings I still wake up early, make black coffee in that old machine, stare out the window at the parking lot full of sedans and delivery vans. But now, some mornings, there's a second cup on the counter. And the hum of the apartment doesn't sound like noise anymore. It sounds like the beginning of "Something I Wish You Were Mine." 5 words, said once in a cold parking lot under yellow lights, and they changed everything.